Hello and welcome back to Anchors TV. I'm delighted to be joined by left back Dan McWilliams. Dan, the big news in the last week is that the FA have decided to curtail steps 3 to 6 of the National League system. What was your immediate reaction to
that? Well, I wasn't surprised, to be honest. I would say I think it was pretty much expected that the season would be finished. The word curtailed was kind of like the thing that I picked up on. Like in the past, it's always been null and void, where curtail kind of leaves the door open a little bit to maybe like using what's happened this season to maybe do something else, i.e. the restructuring potentially. But nothing's been said since, so I can't imagine that's looking too likely either, to be honest.
Were you surprised that they decided to curtail the season rather than just null and void, given the fact we'd only played a dozen games so far?
I think if last season hadn't happened and the null and voided it after whatever it was, 30 games, then I think it wouldn't have been a surprise at all. But obviously, if you're going to cancel a season after 30 games, it's hard then to justify using the next season with whatever it was, 18 or however many games you played. Like it's hard to get away with doing that. I think, or justify doing it.
How feasible do you think the FA's restructuring of steps 4 to 6 is now, considering we've lost 2 seasons of progress?
Well, that's it. You're missing that for all like the lads and then teams who have got 5-year plans who wanted, like Stockton, who wanted to progress. It's tough because you've just lost 2 years out of. I mean, we've got quite a young team as well, so it's kind of you wanted to test yourself while you're at that, like in the prime ages type thing. I don't really know enough about the restructuring to know what the crack is as to whether, like, how likely or unlikely it is, or what like needs to go into it. I just think a bit of common sense needs to come through at the end of the day. I think if teams are wanting to progress and move high and play at a high standard, then they should. I don't understand what issues there are to stop them.
If the FA were to restructure steps 4 to 6, what do you think would be the fairest way to go about it? Would it be used the last 2 seasons or just this last season?
I think in an ideal world, I think you'd obviously use the 2 seasons because then you've got a bigger sample size. So then you're looking at a period of time or number of games, which is longer than a season. So if you add the 2 together and you've played 40 plus games, teams don't really have a leg to stand on. Like, that's a true representation of how we've done. So I think that would have, in an ideal world, that you would have used both of them. But having null and voided last season, it's then hard to go back and say, actually, we're going to use those games now, just because this season's then being shortened. So I think you probably have to look at doing something with just this year's games. But then you're looking at, because you're only barely halfway through a season, people probably would be within the rights to maybe grumble if you just missed out, or if you and you wanted to go up, for instance.
With the season now formally concluded, and if there was no restructuring, do you think it would be right to use the 12 games we've piled up this season next season in case of more disruptions?
Good question. I think from our point of view, we'd probably rather have a clean slate. I know we started the season well, but you'd probably rather see probably start again. But I'd probably say no. I'd probably say start fresh. I mean, what I thought they might maybe consider would be to start the season early. Once, I'm sure it said something about in July, or by the end of June, hopefully you can get 25% capacity up to 10,000 or something like that. Like if you can start getting crowds in by July, then you could even look to start the season then. And then if there is disruptions come the winter time when they're expected to maybe get worse again, and to do with pitches over December and January, then if you're losing large chunks of the season, you're not playing catch up too much. So that's what I thought they maybe would think of doing, but who knows?
There's a cup competition muted by the Northern League to ask clubs if they want to join in. Is that something you'd be motivated for, considering that this season effectively is done?
I think it's a hard one because again, it's like you've got to, in the grand scheme of things, it's only viable if you can get the crowd in, and then obviously with the strong support that Stockton have, you're obviously going to be motivated to play. But then at the same time, you probably are looking at next season where it really matters, because if we'd be looking, obviously, if nothing changes, we've got another chance at the Vars, then we'll obviously be pushing for, hopefully do well in the leagues and the cups and stuff. So you don't really want to, like, it's hard because you wouldn't want to risk damaging that by playing and potentially picking up an injury or something if it's just kind of like friendlies, especially when you've not played for so long. Because we've not played, we're going to need a good 4 weeks minimum to get into any sort of like match, like football fitness.
With the government stating that outdoor training can resume late March, are there any plans for the squad to meet up again and get back to training?
I haven't heard anything. I think there was a message sent out after the latest announcements or whatever that was a couple of weeks ago, just saying that they'd be in touch about potentially doing that. But I think as a group of lads, I think we'll all be chomping at the bit to get back doing something, even if it's just to get out of the house. But like to see the lads, it's not just like it's a good set of lads, so it's good crack and good banter. So it's not even so much. There's been times where I'm probably not the best of trainers at the best of times. I do enjoy it more, but it's not so bad when you're with like a good set of lads and stuff. You don't mind going training. So I think if something like that did come about, then the lads would love it.
The government roadmap has offered hope of all restrictions being lifted by late June. Does that offer us any hope of having an unrestricted and undisrupted season next season?
I think you're asking the wrong person there. I think people getting paid a lot more than me, who know a lot more about it, will make them decisions. But at the end of the day, that's what you want. It's what, like, you want as many people through the gates as possible. You want to be playing in front of a crowd. You want to have that like extra motivation of doing well. It's no good. It's no good for anyone if you're playing behind closed doors, especially at our level. It's like you can tell the difference.
If we were to remain in step 5 for next season, how committed are you to being part of the project?
Oh, 100%. I still, like, when I came to Stockton, it was kind of, I was very pleasantly surprised straight up from speaking to Michael and Marty, the whole setup, the AstroTurf, because I think a lot had changed from when I was there when I was like 16, and the whole, since I've joined, everything's been top class. Like I say, the lads are all sound. We've got it's a local club for me. I'm moving back down here from Newcastle, so like as far as I'm concerned, I'm hoping I've got a few more years left in me at Stockton yet.
Now that the season is officially done, how would you react, and what would your assessment of our performances this season be?
It seems so long ago. I think we maybe started off a bit slow. Took us a bit of time to find our feet. I think obviously we made a couple of signings and there was a couple of injuries about which didn't help. And then just towards the back end, just before lockdown started, I thought we picked up a couple of good results. We started to play a little bit better. Thought we found our feet a little bit. And then we were getting ready for a push, hopefully, for the back half of the season. I mean, it's hard when you look at like the Vars result against Shildon, because that's not really something that we'd normally, like, we were coming off the back of like being in lockdown, so it's hard to really get momentum.
Do you think the 2 FA Vars games we had in December, do you think they were just unnecessary games due to the break, or do you think we could have had a real crack at it?
I think no one knew at the time. Like, no one really knew what was going to happen at the time. But it's just like, again, there's no excuses, but it is difficult to go from training for a couple of weeks, playing a game, and then not having another game for another 2 weeks and stuff. Like, especially at the Northern League, you're used to playing every Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday. And then when it comes about where you're playing, then missing a couple of weeks and playing again, it's hard, especially when you still, because realistically we were still playing catch up fitness, like match fitness wise. You can do as much running and as much like road running or field running, but there's no real replacement for matches. It was difficult. It's difficult.
Do you think the fact that Shildon had a game the week before that tie had any impact, or?
Possibly, but then at the same time, I suppose Shildon are a very good team. So it's one of them games where the team that turns up will probably likely to win that game. There's two very good teams, and on the day they took their chances, and we maybe failed to capitalise on ours, and that's football at this level and any level really.
And on a personal note, you grabbed a goal and 4 assists this season. Do you ever pay attention to your personal output?
Well, I try and keep it tally. I do try and keep it tally. Not as rare as you'll get, but I do try and contribute with assists as and when I can. So yeah, hopefully I'll get a few more than 4 next time round.
Is there any competition with Lewis on the right-hand flank for how many goals and assists you get between you?
I usually have a bit of banter about who will score first. So I think in the first year I managed to get that one, but then last year he managed to shank one in early doors. So I think it's 1-1.
And over the last 2 seasons, Stockton have only conceded 22 goals and kept 22 clean sheets. What do you think has been down to our success at the back?
I think it's not. I think you can't really just say it's the back four and the goalkeeper, to be fair. So I think obviously we've got the best, one of, if not the best goalkeeper in the league in Cal. And then as a back four, we seem to have gelled quickly and well. Like we complement each other pretty well. But then you've got to give a bit of credit as well to the 2 lads who sit in front. So we tend to play with 2 sitters. So whoever that is, Jordan, Max, Portis, Shane or Nath Mulligan, whoever plays in there, you've got to give them a little bit of credit as well, because they do a good job of shielding. But yeah, and then sometimes you need a little bit of luck. I think sometimes this year we maybe conceded goals where last year we wouldn't have, and then just little vital parts in games where it meant we drew or lost this year, whereas previous year we maybe would have got away with it, maybe missed a chance or whatnot, and then we'd have gone on to win the game.
And at home, we were unbeaten over the past 2 seasons. What do you think our biggest strength is at home compared to away games?
Well, I think the crowd's obviously a big one. We're being used to playing in front of them. It is an advantage, and I can imagine for teams who aren't used to playing in front of them sort of numbers, it's a bit of a new experience for them. The fact it's an AstroTurf, I guess, must help as well. We like to try and pass it out. We try and play football on the deck and playing on it every week or every other week, however you look at it. There obviously must be some benefit to that as well, I'd imagine. But again, the pitch is big as well. So AstroTurfs tend to be big, which suits us because we're quite a young, fit, energetic team, so we can get about. But it also means that we can pull teams about and get space and stuff, which I think with like the true role of an Astro and stuff, it lets us do that and lets our more technically good players move the ball quicker and sharper and stuff.
And if we were to return to unrestricted crowds next season, what would your message be to either fans that haven't been able to come last season or fans that feel disillusioned due to the culling of the last 2 seasons?
I think it's kind of just to keep just the support. It was greatly missed last season, and like all of the lads appreciate all the supporters that come in and their support. Now more than ever, probably football, especially lower league football, needs fans to get behind the clubs. And with Stockton, it's a very well-run, family-orientated club, so there is hopefully, touch wood, going to keep improving and keep getting bigger and bigger, which as a player, but as well as a fan, it's potentially exciting just to hop on the back of.
And if we were to get that promotion that we so desired, how do you think we would fare in step 4 next season?
Well, I think if you look for our team, I think there's I mean, I can't get I don't know off the top of my head, but there'll be a lot of players who have already played at high level in our team. And then of the players who haven't, you're probably looking and thinking that they definitely have the ability to play higher. So I think we'd be more than fine. I think as with anything, I think there'd probably be, you try and bring in a few more, you try and bring in a couple of players who have played it or have experience at that level. But in terms of the squad we've got now, I think we'd cope just fine. I think as well, if you look at the games, that we tend to do well against good teams. So I think us going up could actually suit us, because I think at times where we've struggled both this year and last year is when teams have come in and just sat, not really offered much going forward, but they've just tried to play on the break, and if they can nick a goal, they can nick a goal. Where I think if we were to get promoted up into the new system, then teams probably wouldn't expect us to be able to do or to be as good as we are. So I think that would actually play to our strengths a little bit.
All right, thank you, Dan, for joining me for this interview. And to stay tuned to more Anchors TV content, make sure to hit the subscribe button.